My ex is completely silent. Do they even care? Well, your ex is definitely silent for a reason. And after coaching for 10 years, I've seen plenty of exes come back, come crawling back, and giving you the power back. So I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do in this video. The first thing I want you to understand is their psychology, what they're at, where they're at mentally. When they get to the point of wanting to break up with you, they usually get resentment. Too much resentment towards you and the relationship, making them pessimistic. So when they get to that pessimistic stage, there's kind of like there's this like window where you guys are disconnected from each other. They'll get cold usually after that window and silent after that window. So maybe you've got your clothes back. Maybe you've moved out. Maybe you had, maybe you guys have just put more space between you guys than you normally have. That silence, they're going to feel the feelings of missing you, sure. But they're also going to be in love with the idea and dream of being single and by themselves. They're going to get attached to that dream. They're going to want to see it through. And what happens is they begin to miss you once they realize that nothing goes as deep as the relationship did. Everything else is surface level after that, right? And that's what I see with my clients. So usually after a couple of months, things start to shift in your power. But here's the biggest mistake that I see a lot of my clients make. They end up actually saying too much or doing too much at the wrong time. You have to do it at the right time. You have to know when to strike, so to speak. All right. So if you guys need help from me, make sure that you go to my Stantor link bio and you will see the option that works for you. On TikTok, it's in my bio, and on YouTube Shorts or YouTube, it will be in the description box. Your avoidant ex isn't going to come back because you texted them or anything like that. They come back for these 3 reasons, and they all kind of work together. But this is what you'll see if you really want them to come back, so you can understand, because they kind of come back out of nowhere. So the very first step and very first point is they'll come back around when they feel safe, not smothered. That is why when you chase them, all they do is run. You remember, I posted this in one of my previous videos, but you have to create tension. Let's pretend that there's a string attached to both of you. So on your ex, there's a string, and on you, there's a string. When they break up with you, what they do is they start moving away from you. And typically, you will chase, creating no tension on the string. Well, when you start doing no contact and you start going the other way, there's tension on that string. That's perfect. Now, at first, avoidants are very comfortable here, okay? Then, later on, they start to get nervous that you're moving on, and that's where curiosity will really begin. And that leads to point number 2 is curiosity, not certainty. When they are curious and uncertain where they stand with you, that's when they start wanting to get back together. If they know you're still waiting, there's no sense of urgency. There's no sense of, oh my God, I'm gonna lose this person. Wow, right? There's no real pull. Okay, so remember that tension? That tension is very important. So when you're glowing up and you're posting and you're working on yourself, even if it's silent and they can't see it, when you're working on yourself, it's they haven't heard from you. And remember, curiosity is so powerful. They haven't heard from you, so they're going to be wondering what you've been up to. Okay? And that leads to the next part, which is called the emotional gap. So they think that the freedom and the grass is greener idea and the dream that they've sold themselves on is going to feel really, really good forever. It feels good for like 10 minutes, right? And then they start to miss the connection. So they'll start to miss the intimacy, your warmth as a person, how much they miss you, how much you guys had in common, all these things. They start to miss this stuff, and you feel all the pain at first, but they usually feel it later. So they start feeling the loss, they get curious, see how they all kind of work together. So again, if you need help, book a call. It's in the bio, Stanstore link. And if you're watching this on YouTube, description box. You can't rebuild attraction with an avoidant ex by chasing them, but I am going to give you 3 points that do work. And by the way, real quick, ladies, if you're watching, I want you to use this app called Magneta. What this does is this helps give you a lot of support during your breakup. Okay, so I coach a lot of ladies who really want to get back into their feminine. So this app is like a lot like ChatGPT, but it's made for ladies. So the very first point that I want to give you is give them space without punishment. Okay, so what an avoidant needs is breathing room. Okay, and avoidants usually try not to use avoidants want to be in a relationship and they want that connection and closeness. They really do. Okay, but I don't want you to use space as a weapon. I want you to use it as a place that they can have a good experience remembering why they're with you. Obviously, this video isn't just for women, but the app will really help you post support, by the way. So when an avoidant naturally starts to feel safe, okay, they naturally start to reopen towards you. They get curious about you. Now, the second thing that I want you to understand is to show growth and not desperation. Okay, so growth is, I call this the glow up. When you're glowing up and you're working on yourself and you're focused on you, you need to be, okay, so say for example, you're going to a restaurant with your friends. Take a picture of it, post it on socials. It'll get back to them eventually. Mutual friends, right? Show that growth almost as if you don't really care if they come back. See, I have a lot of clients that want to prove their worth to their ex directly. And what you want to do is show it off. So leveling up physically, leveling up in ways that you knew that you needed to do in the relationship. You see, attraction really grows when they see you as a different person than when they left you. A really popular question that I get is like, what should I say to my avoidant? And this is going to be the third part of the video, is when you do talk to your ex, because I see exes come back almost every single day. And avoidants take longer, right? But when you do talk to them, I just want you to keep it light and positive and relaxed. When they do reach out to you and talk to you, don't talk about the relationship. Don't talk about pressure. This is when you see an avoidant start running away, is when pressure comes back into the equation. So you want to keep it short, casual, light, and fun. Keep it simple, stupid, okay? So talk about them. Ask them how they've been, because they're going to expect you to bring those things up. And when you don't, that's going to be a pattern recognition. They're going to be like, oh, cool. This is actually a pretty safe place to be. And always, always, always leave every conversation, every interaction with a high note so they want more. If you need help from me, coaching is in bio. Why an avoidant ex takes so long to start coming back around. I'm going to give you 5 tips. One of these tips is actually from the Chat GPT for ladies. I have a lot of clients that are girls and they love this app. It helps them with support. You know, sometimes you're alone and lonely, and this app is really, really good for that. So make sure you guys check that out. It's available iOS, Android, but they swear by it. Now, I love this very first point, and it is they are wired to avoid emotional intensity, okay? And that is so true with an avoidant. Now, I coach people on my WhatsApp, okay? So whenever we do a coaching session, I add them on WhatsApp, and we have just, you know, we get them on a strategy and a plan. But I have a certain method that I do, and it works very, very well on getting your ex back, but it requires a lot of patience. And we climb this chart. So that emotional intensity that avoidants are trying to not engage in, it's expected. So when you handle it correctly, okay, you can easily know what to do when the avoidant sends a breadcrumb your way, or maybe your avoidant, jumps into a rebound, okay? You'll be able to learn how to handle these things. So the second point is they need to miss you on their own timeline. Now, this is, probably the most important point because no contact comes into play here. Low contact, if you have family, like say, for example, you guys have kids, say, for example, you are maybe working together, anything like that, you want to do low contact. But no contact is actually more powerful than you ever thought possible. And a lot of people are always looking for an extra thing they can do. No contact is all you need to do for a lot of it. Like I said, I have a certain method that I do, and the way that you implement it is so powerful that it piques curiosity so much that your ex can't really say no, and it's got a very high success rate. But the avoidant mindset, again, is a fearful one. They don't like the intensity of emotions, and they want that distance for now until they start to feel that curiosity and that space. They often, so this is point number 3, they often have to rebuild trust in themselves first and be kind of grounded, get to a grounded place. And it's because they get very overwhelmed when they're in a relationship and it gets to a point where they're ready to leave, because they have to focus so heavily on you for a while that when they focus on you, they kind of forget about themselves. So they feel like they're abandoning themselves, which is why they always say, I need to go find myself. I need to go take time. I need to go figure out who I am and what I want. They all say the same thing. And it's because, again, they've put so much into the relationship. From their perspective and their eyes, they feel like, okay, I need to give myself some time to process this. And this is exactly why it takes so long for an avoidant to come back. And plus, guys, we live in this era, okay? Phones, like distractions galore, you know, it's what we, it's the way things are now. So like I said, they take a while to process, you know what I'm saying? Point number 4 is they need to recover their ego. So basically like prep their ego, I should say, because if they admit that they did something wrong, right? So if they come back to you and they're like, hey, you know, I messed up. That is a hard thing to accept, especially for somebody who's an avoidant, because they're trying so hard to avoid emotional intensity. And if they admit something's wrong or that they did something wrong, it is, you know, they're admitting that they're doing something wrong, and it doesn't feel very good, especially for an avoidant person. I'd say amplify it by like 5, okay? Again, that's why it takes longer, because they need to process this. What people, especially if you're anxious attachment, what people forget to think about is like how much an avoidant is bothered by something that you do, right? It's like, again, amplify the intensity by, again, 5, 10, whatever, depending on, you know, how much trauma your avoidant ex went through, because it comes back to trauma. And the very last point is they're going to be testing to see if you actually changed. So what they'll do is they'll come back around, come back in your orbit. And this kind of ties into something that I talk about in my own personal strategy. And what they'll do is they'll come back around for a little bit. They'll see if you've changed. But a big way that they see if you change is through social media. What do you look like? Have you changed anything about yourself? Even the slightest change can pique curiosity. Hair, right? So for some of the ladies that I help, I tell them, look, change your hair up a little bit. It helps. Okay, it creates, what we're looking for always, guys, is curiosity to be created. Curiosity literally brings most people back to you at some point if you do it right, especially with my method. If you guys need help from me, head to the link in the bio, Stand Store link, and make sure you book a session with me. I just introduced half-an-hour calls. They're a hit. So if you guys want short, nice and short, sweet call, it's less money too, do one of those.